Hi, I'm Nick, and I run BarRaiser, where we help growing companies develop unique hiring and interviewing best practices that in turn help these companies unlock crucial milestones such as launching a new product or getting a new funding round, among others. In today's video, I'd like to discuss a interview mental mechanism which will potentially help you as you interview and hire new talent at your company. The interview mental mechanism that I'd like to talk about is avoiding false positive hiring decisions. What does that mean? Let me start with some context first. A false positive hiring decision occurs when you hire a candidate who turns out to be an underperformer and eventually you're going to have to let them go. Conversely, a false negative hiring decision happens when you determine not to hire a candidate for whatever reason who would have been a strong performer at your company. Both the false positive and the false negative hiring mistakes are obviously painful, but there is a school of thought out there that determines that the false positive error is much more pernicious than the false negative one. Why is that? Because when you hire an employee who underperforms, you're going to have to let them go, which in turn comes with a substantial price tag. Depending on the type and function of the underperforming employee, a false positive hiring decision could cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars up to millions of dollars. So lots of companies are actively trying to minimize that mistake from occurring and have built a number of their hiring practices around the premise to minimize and avoid false positive mistakes at all costs. How does that manifest itself tactically, and what can you do in your hiring practices in order to reduce the false positive hiring errors? One of the tangible approaches you can take is to ensure that during the interview debrief, if enough people express any doubt about the ability of this candidate to perform the job based on behaviorally justified data and specific illustrations, then you should push to a no hire decision. As they say, when there is doubt, there is no doubt. Obviously, indexing so deeply in favor of making false negative hiring decisions would also come at a cost. And you would have to walk away from candidates who would potentially be a strong fit with your company. That's a difficult decision to make, particularly in a tight labor market. At the end of the day, you own the decision and you would need to weigh the pros and cons between making a false positive versus a false negative hiring decision. I hope this has been helpful. If it has been, please subscribe to our channel. Please ask us questions. Check our site at barraiser.io and stay in touch. You've got this. Bye.